Welcome, in front of me is a Nokia 3.4 and today I will go over unboxing along with an overview. So let's pop this super original name device. Obviously the packaging is quite trash. Inside of here we get a phone, obviously. Now I did already set it up, so that's why it might look a little bit wonky in terms of how the packaging looks like, but it is new. Now, apart from the phone, we do have a SIM eject tool, and here, taped up behind this little thing, not gonna bother removing it, some paperwork, and then the charger along with a cable. So the charger, if I remember, should be 10 watts. And yep, it is a, wait, 5, should be a 10 watt charger even though it says 5 watts right here. But yeah, anyway, set it to the side. And here we get a charging cable. Now this is actually Type-C cable, so good, finally. And I just popped it open just so I can show you. There we go, as you can see, Type-C. Hopefully I can squeeze it back into this. There we go. Okay, and well, that's basically all we get in the box. So, not much in here. Let's pop this open. Now the phone does have a applied screen protector, which actually doesn't come by default on here, so just bear that in mind. Okay, not sure what's happening there. So, starting off, right, the thing that I can see right off the bat is the screen, and that's a 6.39 inch display with a resolution of 720p by 720 by 1560. So not the sharpest display that you'll most likely find. It also has an 81.9 percent screen to body ratio with a 269 pixels per inch. Nice. So the IPS display in here isn't necessarily the star of the show. Actually, nothing in here is the star of the show, but yeah. Honestly, it looks okay. It might look a little bit fuzzy if you have a really good eye or pixelated, but for the majority of the people, especially those that are looking for a really budget device, this will be good enough. Can't really complain about this device. Yeah, it could have higher refresh rate, higher resolution, better color reproduction, all that, but then at the end of the day, this phone doesn't cost $1,000, it costs $100 roughly, so a little bit over $100, but yeah, for that price the screen is good. Now moving on to the camera department, which we have a couple of them at the back. As you can see in this kind of nicely designed circle, reminds me a little bit about I think Huawei did this as well at one of their, I think it was the 30 lineup, but it might be, or Mate 30. But anyway, so we have triple camera setup right here with a flash, and all the cameras we have like 13 megapixel wide, 5 megapixel ultra wide, and 2 megapixel depth. Now right off the bat we do have most certainly one useless camera, which is the 2 megapixel depth sensor. Then the 5 megapixel ultra wide probably will not do a fairly good job, so I wouldn't really count on it, because if you try to capture on ultra wide, the 5 megapixel is just, I would say, too small of a sensor, especially on a budget devices where they don't really do much with it to do a good job. Now there are slight exceptions to small sensors, for instance, what is it, Apple as an example, or Pixel. They both use 12 megapixel sensors, I believe, from Sony, and those cameras can perform just amazingly, but here we have a 13 megapixel and that won't perform amazingly, so just keep that in mind. So let's pop the camera and see how it does with photos. Nice plenty right here, so let's capture a couple photos. Now it has a weird thing in portrait where for some reason when you have some kind of lights, I can basically change how they look like. So as you can see, there is the as an example, this is the normal looking photo, right? And they can basically tap on this picture or this image right over here and change them to be a little bit more blurry. It will look a little bit better in this case, but you can also change them completely how they look like. So you can change them to stars, hearts, and what else is there? Butterflies, snowflakes, and my favorite, teardrops. That's probably gonna be adequate to how those photos would look like with the 2 megapixel sensor if you would actually use this. So yeah, I'm kind of curious how this would work. Like, do I need some kind of lights? Oh, that is so bad. I'm actually gonna try something out. Oh, there it is. So I did unbox a smaller or even more budget version of this phone, the 2.4 Nokia, and I couldn't figure out how to get the portrait to work, because portrait is the one that usually uses the depth sensor, which the other phone also came with it. There we go. So you basically have to not only go into portrait, but you have to enable it in the portrait. You have to enable portrait in the portrait. Anyway, once you do, you get to experience the glory, the pure amazement that you can experience here with the 2 megapixel depth sensor. It's on a whole new level. This is a cactus which is right now missing needles, because the software can't really distinguish what in the heck is the background and what is the foreground, so it just completely shaves it off. Boom, problem solved. No needles. Imagine that those needles aren't necessarily the thinnest thing on the photo here. So if you consider something like hair, oh boy, you're in a world of adventure there with those photos, where it needs to distinguish what is a hair strand. So I strongly discourage you from using this. This is so bad. It's almost funny. Actually, no, it is funny. But yeah, let's zoom it in, and you can just, like, what is this? There is like no needles. They do stick out like up to somewhere here. And just as an example, I did capture a photo without it. Here we go. It might not be the best photo, but hey, at least it has needles on the cactus. So yeah, there we go. That's kind of how it's supposed to look like. Maybe not as bright, but still. Anyway, this without the portrait, the photo looks way better. It doesn't do that weird blurry effect where it just completely doesn't have any clue what is the background, foreground, and still tries to attempt something like an incompetent child. So yeah, this is without it, it's gonna go a little bit further in terms of a quality than with it. So basically, bottom line is, don't use the portrait mode, and do not press that button right over here once you are in the portrait mode. Photo mode, it's fine. It does use the 30 megapixel sensor alone, meaning that it doesn't do some wonky blurriness. So like I said, the photos here should come out okay. And just as an example, I'm going to capture one more just as... There we go. So once more, just to show it off, this is the... Well, my lack of skill in keeping the subject actually in focus. Because the front isn't focused but the back is, but disregard that. You can still see that there is right here a actual detail in the needles, and it does do a blur effect in the background. As you can see, this right here, the charger that is standing out there, is blurred along with everything in the back, like it should be. So this will go way further in terms of quality than if you go with the portrait and you try to do that fake bokeh effect, which just gonna make everything look super bad. So yeah. Now another thing that we can test out is the selfie mode. So let's go with it. Okay, there we go. Now The lighting in here, at least for me, as I am lit up, might not be the best, especially the background back there might be a little bit hard on the camera. Normally, if I would light up the light that is literally above my head, it would probably look a little bit better, but right off the bat you can see that there is some fuzziness in the photo. It's not necessarily detailed, it's lacking a lot of it. So yeah, it's mediocre. It will still do the job, but it's nothing special here. Okay, so moving on to the next part. Outside of the cameras, we have specifications, and this device does come with a Snapdragon 460, so it's an okay Snapdragon. It should work really well. Oh, maybe not. Let's put it this way, really well for the price that this device comes at. That's probably the correct way to describe it. Also has a couple different versions in terms of RAM and storage. So we do have a 32GB version of storage with 3GB of RAM, and you can also go a little bit higher with the storage to 64, and at 64 you have two different options in terms of RAM. So you have three like we had before, but you also have a 4GB RAM option, which honestly I would go with either, well, not either, but probably I would go with a higher storage and higher RAM, just because I would rather have more RAM than storage, considering this phone I believe can be expanded using an SD card. So normally 32GB would be okay, because you can expand it further, but you cannot expand it past that 3GB RAM. So I would prefer to future-proof with going with a higher RAM capacity rather than skimping out on this one. Now that being said, apart from that, we do have also NFC, which is a really nice touchscreen here, so you can use this phone to basically pay for stuff. Let me just quickly check, there should be somewhere NFC. Maybe I lied. I don't see NFC here. Let's check in the settings. And we do have NFC, I guess. Oh, there it is. So for some reason it's not showing up in here at all, even though it is on the phone. Yeah, so not really sure what is going on here. But you can see it's right over here, and by default it's enabled. So anyway, going back to what I was saying, you can use this phone to basically pay for stuff out in store. All you need to have is just add your card to it, to Google, and then you can slap your phone to the sensor when you pay it with proximity, and it will use your phone instead of your card, which is, I would say, a really handy thing. And then going further, we do also have a fingerprint sensor on the back, and also, there we go, the headphone jack, which I was looking for, right here. And another thing that I like is the fact that it comes with Type-C. And now, like I said, I did unbox a lower version of this phone, the NOKIA 2.4. And that one came with a micro USB, which for 2020 release is just atrocious. Now, mind you, that phone was a little bit cheaper, but still, this phone is cheap as well. This won't really break your bank. It does come out around, like, what is it, $150 or so. 95 pounds, about 130 euros. So yeah, about 150 bucks. So it is a really cheap device, I would call it. And honestly, if you're debating between those two, go for this one. It's gonna work way better than the other one. It will have a little bit more room in terms of performance. The camera is a little bit better here, I would say, although don't use the depth sensor, it's just atrocious. And apart from that, you have things like Type-C port. We call that an absolute win right here. It does have a smaller battery of only 4,000, faster charger of about 10 watts, at least charging at 10 watts. And the NFC is something that I would be really looking for in my phone, because I just prefer to not carry my wallet with me, and having just the phone, you walk up to something, you pay, and voila, you're done. Works way better than actually carrying your wallet with you all the time. So apart from that, I would say this phone is fairly nicely priced. At 130 euros, it just is a really good phone. I can't really complain it. It basically comes with majority of the things that I would be looking in a budget device. Keep in mind I'm saying budget because this is a budget device, so it won't really blow you away with whatever it can do. Everything that it has here is designed to be cheap, but what it brings for that price, I would say it's worth the money. So yeah, that basically being said, it would basically conclude what I have to say about this device. And if you're looking for a fairly cheap device, then this one should be good enough to pick up. It should work for at least another several years. So yeah, if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.